The narcissist will expose themselves in the end. Narcissists like to hide because they're ashamed of themselves. They don't want to deal with the shame and the consequences of their actions. So they run away. They conceal themselves. They prevent themselves from being seen or discovered. But eventually, they will expose themselves. They will reveal their faults and defects. They will make themselves visible. And people will see through them. People will realize the truth. People will detect their true nature. And they will not be deceived by them anymore. Because they can't keep doing what they're doing without anyone catching on to it. They will show themselves up. They won't just keep getting away with it for the rest of their lives. Because they're like loose cannons. They're very unpredictable and uncontrolled, to where they are liable to cause unintentional damage. Because they're mentally unstable. They've told so many lies, so many false truths. They've deceived so many people. They've misrepresented themselves, to the point where they're now prone to psychiatric problems and sudden changes of mood. They're unbalanced, unsteady, deranged and demented, because they're living in an alternate reality, where they now have to remember all of their lies. They have to remember what they've said to everyone. They have to be really clever, to where they're quick to understand, learn and devise and apply ideas. They have to be 2 steps ahead of everything. They have to anticipate what other people will do or think. They have to be significantly more skilled and prepared, which is how they always fall short, because they do not show a high degree of mental ability. They're not able to think quickly and intelligently in difficult situations, so they always end up being caught out. They do not get away with it. They always end up exposing themselves in the end. And when they do, they feel very awkward, self-conscious, uneasy, uncomfortable, and unsettled, because they don't want anyone to see. They spend their entire lives trying to conceal themselves, because they have a very dark past. A past which contains trauma, immense challenges, and other difficult situations, and they don't want to reveal it to anyone. Because they don't want anyone to know about it. But the truth always comes out in the end. The narcissist exposes themselves through their lack of empathy, through their inability to understand and share another person's feelings. Although they may have cognitive empathy, they may be able to pretend to know how it feels to be someone. They may pretend to have certain emotions as though they understand how you are feeling, but it's disingenuous. It's not real. Which is how it soon becomes irritating and less convincing, because it's clear that they do not understand, which results in repeated arguments and circular conversations, until you eventually realize, because their manipulation is no longer as convincing, as a result of all of the chaos and drama. So it leaves you very confused. But it's because they've become very comfortable with pretending and lying. It's become second nature to them. They've developed this deeply ingrained habit and skill that appears to be automatic, because they think they've got you. They think they've taken care of everything. They think they understand everything they need to know, so they become smug. They show uncritical satisfaction with themselves because they feel superior to you. But their lies are so extreme, to the point where it seems fake. It doesn't add up. There's no reasonable explanations for it. It seems very strange, suspicious, and unnatural. It doesn't make sense. Because they lack good sense and judgment. They lack self-awareness, self-perception, and consciousness, which is why they've always got chaos around them. They're always involved in some sort of drama, which is not something that you want to be involved in, because you can't say anything to them. They have a fragile, dysfunctional ego, so you can't say that something is wrong. You can't say that they have done something wrong, because it always results in an argument. They always twist it around on you, which leaves you very confused. Because how can you always be wrong? How can you be to blame for everything? Every time you try to direct their attention to something, they always have a quick reply. They always counter it and retaliate, as though they feel like they've been harmed by your words and they seek revenge, which shows them up. It exposes and discredits them, because it reveals their faults. There's always an issue, and yet they can't take any type of criticism. Even though it may not have anything to do with them, it will still affect them. It will still make them feel like you're criticizing or embarrassing them, because this is just how they perceive things. This is how they understand the world around them, because there's something not right with them. They don't perceive the world in the way that we do. They perceive situations in a completely different way. They make it all about themselves, which doesn't make any sense. The narcissist has a lack of accountability. They make everything your fault. They never apologize, or they have a grandiose sense of self, to where they feel very entitled to do what they're doing and say what they're saying. They feel like they can treat you and other people however they like, which is why there's always something wrong. And they're always having to put people down, because they're constantly engaged in weird behaviour. They're always doing things that are strange and unusual, things that are far outside the boundaries of expected or normal behaviour, which is naturally going to be mentally demanding, challenging, burdensome and tiresome for you. It will require a lot of thought and effort for you to understand, because we're nothing like them. Their brains are wired differently. So it's very uncomfortable to be around them. It's not pleasant at all. It makes you feel sick, because they have a lack of accountability, a lack of understanding. They perceive things differently. They have a skewed perception, a warped sense of understanding. They have ideas that most people would find strange or unpleasant, which causes you to raise doubt and starts questioning things. It causes you to seek answers, because you're tolerant and forgiving, so you want to develop insight. You want to understand what is going on. But once you start questioning their behaviours, their lack of accountability, and their lack of self-awareness, as well as their inability to reach a sense of resolve, you come to only one conclusion, and you realise that your only option is to withdraw, because you know that they have a serious problem, and it's not something that can be fixed. You understand that they're always going to be this way. But once you realise this, they immediately pick up on it, because they're hypersensitive to rejection and criticism. They're always scanning the environment for threats. They're constantly observing people's facial expressions, body language and tone of voice, because deep down they know that they have a serious problem. They know that they're hiding something, and they do not want to be discovered or exposed. So they know when their game is not working on you anymore, because you're unable to endure that unpleasant, critical, harsh, abusive treatment, and this is when they become even more defensive, while at the same time they're devaluing you, which makes you question things even more. Because when you're dealing with someone who is mentally ill, you will experience situations where one of their actions causes many similar actions or events. It starts from an initial state of small significance and builds upon itself until it becomes larger, until it becomes more and more pronounced, more and more noticeable, because they have a mental disorder. It's characterized by chaos or confusion. It disrupts the natural course of things. It creates a set of problems which results in causing significant difficulty, distress, impairment and suffering, because their minds are out of whack, their brains are not functioning properly, they're out of balance and unaligned in some way. They're not in good condition, which creates a disturbance of peace, an upset of health in everyone who's around them, because they have conditions that affect their thinking, feeling, mood or behaviour, which causes a deviation from the normal system of order. They always find ways to justify their behaviours, but eventually you will begin to question it, because it's not something you can accept or agree with. It's not going to seem correct or appropriate, because it's problematic. It constitutes and presents a problem. It's taxing and troublesome, and it causes you to become less and less patient because you don't want to deal with it anymore. But the narcissist is not going to change, and they're not going to be different with anyone else. That never happens. They never change. They remain stubborn, narrow-minded, inflexible, closed, rigid and conservative. They do the same things every day, and they do not want to change their habits, which is why they will obstinately adhere to the old ways in spite of clear evidence that they are wrong, or in spite of you telling them. They won't take accountability. They won't care that you are not happy. They won't think that they need to change anything about themselves, because they do not care. They have no effective empathy, so they cannot put themselves in your shoes. Some of them may have the ability to pretend that they can, but really they can't, which causes you to feel ignored, neglected or forgotten, to where you're left in a bad position, or you're not given the rights or advantages that you should have. Because they cannot understand you. They are self-absorbed. They are withdrawn inwards. So all they think about is their own grandiose fantasies of being superior, special, perfectly loved, self-sufficient and self-important, to cover the vulnerability, self-doubt and worthlessness at their core, and to keep their grandiose false self alive in their minds. So they must keep their fears of abandonment at bay, which is why they're constantly searching for sources of narcissistic supply. They're searching for people who will supply them with positive attention and appreciation, but if that's not possible, fear from others will be adequate. They may act arrogant and charismatic, but deep down they feel unworthy, so they will do anything to get what they want, and they will not let people's feelings or the truth get in the way. But they do struggle with their self-esteem, which fluctuates throughout the day. They will either feel like they are the greatest person alive, or that they are an embarrassment, which causes them to be very paranoid about what people are doing, to where they interpret everything in a negative manner, and they will perceive regular comments as insults, while they may be very judgmental of you. And while they may blame you for everything, they are pathological liars, because it's very difficult for them to accept that they are wrong. It's almost impossible for them to take accountability. They cannot be vulnerable with anyone, which is why they despise your vulnerability. It's why they're extremely envious of your happiness. It's why they hate you for that. It causes them to have anger issues, which is why they will often engage in splitting, where they see everyone, including themselves, as either all good or all bad. They also dissociate, they have distorted perceptions, which causes them to recall things very differently from healthy people, to where they may not recall things at all if they don't resonate with their superiority. They will rationalize anything. They will assert that they have no flaws. They will say that there is nothing wrong with them and that they never have problems. They will project their flaws and insecurities onto you. They will deny it all. They will assert that something is not true, even when ordinary observation or common sense confirms that it is true. They will deny anything that doesn't reinforce their grandiose image, and they will shift the blame onto you, because there can never be anything wrong with them. They can never be to blame, which is why they have an unreasonably high sense of self-importance and require constant excessive admiration. It's why they expect to be recognized as superior even without achievements. Or they will make their achievements and talents seem greater than what they are, while minimizing yours. Because supporting their grandiosity is always at the forefront of their minds. It's all they care about, no matter who gets hurt in the process. So gradually, you begin to lose your essential individuality. You begin to lose your self-regard, and you begin to realize that you cannot be with them. Because they have an inability to experience continuous affiliations and interactions that involve the mutual fulfillment of both parties' needs. They can't bond with you because they're traumatized people who are in denial of their trauma, so they can only trauma bond to you. They can only assign and offload onto you what they fail to recognize or accept within themselves, which is something that they may manage to do successfully initially, and they may believe that you're not seeing through it, but eventually you will see through it. You will question what is really going on. At first you may have internalized it. You may have made that attitude or behaviour part of your nature. You may have tried to learn more about it. You may have engaged in unconscious assimilation where you absorbed and integrated their information or ideas. You may have taken it into your mind and tried to thoroughly understand it, to where you then began the process of becoming similar to them. You acquired their basic habits, attitudes and mode of life. You accepted that it may have been your fault. You took accountability for everything. You changed everything about yourself and your way of life until you finally realised that it's not your fault. It's not your responsibility. So then you begin to withdraw. You decide to leave, which may be easier said than done, because they bond over their trauma. So you may be trauma bonded to them. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Hit the subscribe button to receive the notifications. If you would like to support the channel, you can donate at paypal.me/Narc Survivor. You can book a one-on-one with me on my website. It's narcsurvivor.co.uk. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.